The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome everyone to our training session for Journyx version 12.2, also called the Greenwich release. My name is Meredith Zachritz, and I'm the Director of Product here at Journyx, and I'll be walking you through this session today. We'll start by taking a quick look at what we have to show you today, and then at the end we'll pause for questions and answers for anything that you'd like to ask or see in addition to what we cover here today. It's just a quick 30-minute session. So we'll roll through this and get to your questions. So let's go ahead and get started. What we have available in our new release, in our Greenwich release, is a number of features related to managing assignments in our Journyx PX module, as well as some new reporting options that help you with your output so that you can organize the data the way you need to see it. Finally, I'm going to also cover a couple of new mobile features. We had a mobile release, version 12.2 as well, that coincided with this Greenwich release. And I'm just going to go over a couple of the new features in that mobile release as well. So let's go ahead and jump right into our first new feature. It's really a kind of a feature area, and that is our team assignments for the Journyx PX module. Now, for those of you who don't have PX, this may be interesting because it's a tool that actually makes some of the resource management even easier than perhaps what you've seen from PX in the past if you've ever evaluated this. So this could be of interest to those of you who are currently using PX, as well as those of you who have considered it as something that you would like to do. So we added something that we call team assignments. And the idea here is that when you are planning for future work, when you need to know what your future capacity looks like, who will be called up to do these future projects that you have either committed to or perhaps are looking into committing to, you need to know, what demands you have on people's time, and it may be by skill or location or however you organize those kind of resource teams. But you don't necessarily know who will do that work, let's say 6 months out, and you don't necessarily want to identify a specific individual or make individual assignments and then 6 months later say, oh, that person's no longer here, that person's no longer in this department. So it's like you want to have something that's more general, and so that's the idea of the team assignment. I think I saw somebody raising their hand, so just a moment, let me double check and make sure we're not having any technical difficulties. Nope, I think we're good. Okay, very good. Just making sure none of you were saying I can't see your screen. So the team assignments are all about managing that future capacity in a general way so that you understand what resources you're going to need further out. You will take some kind of let's say your mobile support team, people who have the skills to do mobile support. Well, you've got a big mobile project that's going to come online in 3 months. Do you have the capacity to do that project, to have that mobile support? And you don't necessarily have to know, like I said, an individual or a group of individuals who will be doing that work. You can do it at a more general level based on teams, while also seeing those folks who do mobile support, what demands they have on their time in other ways with their individual assignments as well. So we added this concept of teams, and you can create as many teams as you like. And you can organize them really on any basis that makes sense for you. A lot of people, of course, will organize based on skills, and you can see I have some sample teams here based on skills. But locations, departments, really anything that you use to organize your folks, into working groups that make sense, say, for a particular project and task, can be used to organize as a team. For those of you who are familiar with Journyx custom fields, any user custom field that you have that's a select list can be used to organize a team. And so when we go to create a team, We have the name and description, and you saw how I named my team so that it was easy for me to identify what sort of team it was. I can then go and search for users to be on that team. And all of my, standard Journyx fields, as well as, team skills, location, which are user custom fields I created, as well as, using another, let's say I want to do a subset of a team that exists, I could even choose, a list of users from a team. So when I create a team, I can use any of these categories and to search for the team members that I'd like to see added to that team. Now, there's also a concept here of groups. This is a little different than this is not about who's on the team. This is about your team managers. So I can, as an administrator here with access to everything, I can create teams, but I can also give managers the ability to create teams. And if I want them to be limited to the team, manage only a subset of the teams that exist in my system, then I can put it in groups to allow those managers, those team managers, to see the teams that they're allowed to manage. So that's what the groups field does for you there. And then, as you are probably familiar with other objects in the Journyx system, you can have this added to all new groups. So that would suggest that every manager can manage this team. And you can hide this team. So if you want to, say, stop using a team, you can hide the team. And of course, you can unhide that team should you want to go back to using it. So you can delete teams or you can hide them if you plan to use them in the future, but perhaps you want to deactivate them in the short run. And we'll just kind of look at an existing team here just to give you an idea. Like I said, my name and my description make it easy for me to search for the team that I want. I have my users. And then if I want to just quickly see who's on a team, there's a little pop-up spot report that we have. And you will see this throughout as we go through the demo team assignments, that you can always look to see who is a member of a specific team. So this is my mobile support team, and I can look quickly to see who's on here. I can also set which custom field information I want in here. So right now I've got it set to show me team skills. I could reset that report to show location or any other user custom field that you use that gives you the pertinent information that you need. So it is customizable. So that's how you create teams, but what do you do with teams? And like I said, it's really kind of looking at capacity. What do you have planned for the future? What more might you plan for the future? And do you have the availability, to do the work you're planning? And teams really helps you get a more complete picture, like I said, without having to go through, an exercise of choosing people who may or may not actually do the work. So we're going to start out here. I'm just going to put some filters on what we've got here on resource availability, where we can see how allocated different individuals and now teams are for any given period. And so I can look into the future. I can look at current capacity. I can look at future capacity and see what I need to see. And so as you can see now, in addition to the users that we have here that show kind of how allocated under or over they might be, we also have teams. And just like we had on the teams management page, I can quickly see who's on each team right here while I'm looking in my view for resource availability. Now I can also just look at one or the other. So let's take a look at just our team assignments. And one thing that you'll note is that we've got some dark colors and some light colors. The dark colors are used to indicate blocks of team assignments. You can see one here and one here. It's our large team. And then our light colors are individual assignments. And you can see kind of at the very bottom of the tooltip there, assignment type. It says a direct assignment to a user or team assignment to this team. And so I can see these all together, but I could also have options. If I want to remove my user assignments and just see team assignments, I can do that. So I just have the assignments that apply to the individual teams. I can also take a look at how the team is. So this is how I can see, team assignments and how users on the team are affected by their own personal assignments. But let's flip it around and let's do some users. And we'll take a look at how they are affected by their team assignments. So we can see that my folks who have Python programming skills, they're all way over allocated, and it's by this one kind of large team assignment, that's 400-hour team assignment that everybody has access to. So by default, it's just going to plug it into each one of my users' workload graphs for that period. But I could say, well, no one person is going to do that assignment. It's going to be divided. So let's see what happens if I divide it amongst these team members. And then I can see really only Brian is the one who has a problem here with over allocation. So that's good news. So I can manage my assignments in a way that would allow me to avoid over allocating people. But I can essentially manipulate what I see here, how I slice and dice the workload to see how I can manage the work in the future and be sure that we're not over allocated. So now let's look and see, well, that's great. I can see my team. I can see who is and isn't over allocated. We'll go ahead and look at Brian, even though he's over allocated. We'll pretend we're going to move some of his work to something else, but let's see how our team members then interact with these team assignments. So I'm going to log in as Brian. And I've got his assignments on his My Assignments screen, which is, again, a PX view. There is the standard time entry view as well, but a PX view kind of helps them see how much time they're committed to, what dates they have work for, and so on. And I can see that I have, just a regular assignment here with a task and description. But then I also have this little people thing, and that is a team assignment. That indicates that I'm not yet assigned to do this work, but I am on the team that is assigned to do this work. Now, team assignments can be set up to be one of two ways. You can allow people to assign it to themselves. You'll sometimes hear us refer to those as agile assignments, but basically you can, as long as this project task is set to loggable, then and allows self-assignments, then I can see this team assignment on my assignment screen, and I can start logging time to it and thus assign it to myself. The other option, and you do this at the task level, so I could choose this task to be self-assignable or not. If it's not self-assignable, then a project manager has to go and break up that team assignment to assign it to individuals when it's time to do the work. So it's just entirely up to you. If you are comfortable giving people on the team access to, grab and start working things when it's time to go, then you can do the self-assign or agile assignment. Otherwise, you can set the team assignment, and then if you have it set to be project manager assigned, that project manager is going to get an alert shortly before work is scheduled to begin that will tell the project manager it's time to go assign this to individuals. So once we log time, it becomes an individual assignment. So here I can choose to start logging time. And there we go. And now it is no longer a team assignment. It's assigned to me. And other people on the team who have access to this can also log time. So it's not just me personally, but I have assigned myself to this now, and other members of the team can do the same, can pick up work and do the same. So that's an example of self-assign or agile assignment. But like I said, if I required a project manager to do it, then a project manager would take that team assignment and reassign it to individuals when the time comes. So let's go back and look at a few other aspects of the team assignment. Reporting, for example. Let's take a look at an assignment report. So when I run a report now with assignments, I have the option to filter on users and or teams, but teams are incorporated into my assignment report. And so you can see here, that we've got a category for both. And just like we saw elsewhere, there's that little spot report. Well, who's on that team? I'd like to see right now. It's available within the assignment report. In addition to team assignments being available for reporting in the assignment report, it's also available, team assignments are also available in the report link feed for assignments. So it's all incorporated into all the various tools you use to report on this information. I did mention the self-assign versus project manager assign, and I just want to show you very quickly where that setting is. So when you're setting up a PX project, a scheduled project, there is an option here that says allow users to begin work on their team assignments. And so you can make it project manager only, or you can say yes. And what we did with Brian's my assignment screen was he was allowed to pick it up himself when he was ready and assign it to himself. The inherit setting is really just all about, you know, your project hierarchy, your work breakdown structure. If you want to say at the highest level of the project, I'm going to set this to no, and everything underneath it needs to be, you know, managed by a project manager, you can do that. And that's where inherit comes in for everything below it. So inherit's just all about the you know, top level project, the summary task, etc. Anything underneath it would inherit whatever you set here. So self-assign or project manager assigned. Let's see. There's really not much to show in terms of import tools, but for those of you who use them, there is a team import. So you can import your teams rather than use the user interface that I just showed you. And then everything that touches teams, like the assignment import or the scheduled project import, also supports team assignment. So it's been incorporated into all of the standard import tools as well. And then finally, I mentioned this briefly when I was showing the team management UI, but under your custom role area, we now have some new abilities. And these are just all about managing teams. And so there's this concept similar to the super approver, where if you are a team's admin super, then you can manage all the teams in the system. And then if you are a team's manager, then you can manage any teams that are in your groups. And that's what that group field was that we looked at when we were creating teams. So you can either add these roles to folks who want to manage teams, or you can go add these abilities over here to the custom roles that you already have. So these are new role abilities and default roles that you can use to manage teams in PX. So that covers the highlights of team assignments and how to use them in a basic way. So let's take a look at a couple of our reporting improvements as well. We added a new chart type called a MultiValue Chart. And these reporting improvements are for both Journyx and the Journyx PX module, by the way. And what we added here was the ability to compare numeric fields. So here I have some estimated scheduled work versus actual work, and I can compare them in a chart. And then here I have some of my cost fields that I can compare as well. And so you can compare multiple fields. I can, you know, change them on the fly from horizontal to vertical. I also have a couple of options for the comparison of fields. The side-by-side, which I show here, and then overlapped, where I can mouse over and see how much actual work has been completed against the scheduled work. So I can change that on the fly. Excuse me just a moment. There we go. A catch in my throat. I can also change these fields quickly to some other comparison. Let's do some budgeted cost to total cost there, or current cost. So I can do all of this quickly here in this new chart type. Now, it doesn't just compare fields. It also has a capability as an alternative to aggregate fields. So over here, really what I'm doing, current cost is really my total cost. So I'm kind of eyeballing labor cost and expense cost compared to our, you know, current cost, which is our total cost. But I could take my current cost out and change this, for example, to waterfall. So now I'm aggregating my costs. And so I get my total cost picture by looking at the top of, say, the waterfall, or I can stack them. So this chart does both comparison and aggregation of these numeric fields, and you've got a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do with it. I'm going to go quickly to our report just to highlight. So the order of the fields here what fields you can include, for example, in here and the order they appear in is based on the fields you have in your displayed in your report and the order they're in. So you can control that in the settings. And if we go to modify the report, we'll just show. So fields to display, if I wanted the actual work to show up on top of scheduled work, I could just change it. If I wanted to report on another field for comparison, I could add it to the list that's displayed. And this new chart option is also available, of course, within the reports itself right here as a multi-value chart. So that's the new chart type. And the last thing we'll cover in the Greenwich release is the new grid layout. So let's go back to run reports. This is available in your time, expense, and custom reports, so your basic list reports. And what you can do is choose this grid layout, idea being that I want to see user sheets that I can save or print or use in some type of, it's generally in some type of auditing process. And so I've taken these list reports and reorganized them from, lists of records subtotaled by whatever to actual user sheets by period. So you can see Alan's sheet for this period and so on. It's for the different periods. There are some other users in here. There we go. And then I can add information like text, like I need signatures on paper timesheets for some reason for a particular auditing process. So I can do a signature here. I can also add custom fields above and below the sheet. And so in this instance, I put everybody's department. And I did use our what we call tricky tags, where you can plug this into the headers and footers. These are also designed to be printable. And we'll load it. By default, it's going to load a sheet per page. There's a page break between each sheet, which is a common request for these types of audit reports. And of course, you can save these off to PDF or you can print them. You can also put more than one sheet on a page if you don't need them separated. But a lot of people do want a page break per sheet for their auditing processes. So there's a lot of flexibility in here. But the idea is that you include whatever field and custom information you need with the user sheets, and then they are quickly and easily printable or savable as a PDF. I'll just show very quickly where that grid format lives. So right here, display, output, and grid. And it does gray out some of the options that no longer apply. So the last thing that we'll cover is a couple of new mobile features. And if you haven't used the new mobile app, you may not have seen this, but when you click on that plus sign at the bottom of the screen to create a new entry prior to the current 12.2 release, this would always, always, always default to today's date and add time. Even if, let's say, while I'm here on time, I scroll back a couple periods and I hit plus, it used to just default to May 27th, even though I had scrolled back to a different date. Likewise, when I went to expense, maybe we'll scroll back a period here, it used to always go to time and today, which was mildly annoying and a little confusing, especially if you accidentally entered time for today when you really meant to do it for 2 weeks ago. So what we've done is made sure that we call this the date picker, essentially, that the date picker is smart so that when you hit create, it knows where you are, what you're viewing, what you're taking a look at, like, oh, I forgot to log time on Monday, and look at that, it takes me to Monday. So it makes it just a little bit easier to do what you intended to do and not require extra navigation. In addition to the date picker usability, which I think will be, even though you might not have noticed it before, I think will be very helpful for making it more intuitive, we also added the ability to do conversions on expense. So many of you do mileage conversion on expense or some other type of conversion on expense. And we hadn't supported that in mobile before, but now if you have a conversion set up for mileage, get to our mileage code here. Now I can see that I'm entering this in miles and I know how it's going to convert it. And so I enter my miles and I save. And I can see that it converted it to dollars. And I can pull up the entry and it will remind me that, hey, this is what you entered, 100 miles. And again, I can change this to something else and it will convert it to currency. So mileage conversion or any other type of conversion you do an expense is now supported in the mobile app. So let's go back to our presentation and just remind everybody that Journyx 12 is cloud first. So it is available for cloud customers today. Obviously, our professional services team offers training and updates for anything that you need related to upgrades in our versions. And we also have demo sites if you'd like to take a look, evaluate any of these new features. And Mobile 12.2 is available currently on the App Store and Google Play for iOS and Android. So now I'm going to go ahead and open up the floor for questions. You can type your questions in the questions panel or GoToMeeting. All right. I usually have so many questions at these things and I don't see any today. Hopefully that means I explained everything very clearly. All right. Well, I thank you all so much for your time today. As I said, if you need any more information, you'd like a demo site, you'd like a guided tour, please feel free. Oh, I see we got a question. Hang on. And at the last minute. Let's see. So there's a question about using hours versus decimal. The time entry right now, you can enter hours in either decimal or hours, minutes, but mobile does not currently use your saved format. It shows things in hours, minutes at the moment. We will eventually add the option to display time in the format that your entry screen shows it. So whether that's decimal or hours and minutes. But right now, like I said, you have the option to enter in either format, but it will be saved in a fixed format right now in mobile. Any other questions? Let's see. The option to respect your screen is in our next bucket, and so it will probably be sometime this fall. It will be sometime this year, probably in the fall. Any other questions? Going once. All right. We'll go ahead and wrap that up. That we will be sending a recording to everyone who attended. And like I said, feel free to contact your account manager if you'd like a guided tour or a test site for your own use. Thank you again and have a great day.